Hello, everyone, and I would like to thank you so much for joining us today. And we have Felicity from ISA who will be joining us, ISA Network. We love partnering with ISA. We've been partnering with them since 2019, and they've just been a great element to they bring a great element to our festival to support screenwriters. And if you have the chance, you should definitely check out their website because their website offers a long list of resources that screenwriters can take advantage of. And so I just want to thank you, Felicity, for joining us. And if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey from being an actor to screenwriting to writing and now working with ISA.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to meet you. And thank you so much, Patrice, for that lovely introduction. The International Screenwriters Association loves partnering with you too. It's been a really great experience for us. So my journey was a little bit eclectic. I mean, obviously from my accent, you can tell I wasn't born in America. I started out being an actor and then ran a theatre company. Actually started in development with new writing and comedy. And we had a little venue. Actually, I still run it 20 years later. It's a little black box space in London. And I realized that storytelling is very important to me. I really love words. I love how they can change how you feel. I mean, music's amazing because the music kind of gets in to your emotions without words, but words really do inspire and motivate and educate. I mean, they're, very powerful thing, words. And I really do think that scripts, screenwriting, storytelling can change the world. It can definitely change how people feel about situations or themselves. So I've always been interested in that. And then about 11 years ago, I was like, I could move to California and that would be one of those few women that haven't had any work done. So that was my plan. I thought they just really need a British actress whose face still moves. So anyway, I got here and I realized it's really hard. And actually you really need to be able to do an American accent. But I loved living in California. I love the people, I love the attitude, I love the weather, I love the opportunity. And so I decided to stay and I thought, well, what else can I do? What other skill sets do I have? And then I found out about the International Screenwriters Association, and I met the founder, Craig James, and we just started talking about Breaking Bad. Actually, we met at the gym I want to say jacuzzi, but that's the wrong word. The hot tub. So I'm just saying, is like connections come from the weirdest places. So we met in the hot tub. We just started talking about Breaking Bad and we started talking about the acting in it and then how the storytelling was so precise, and realized that we understood each other, and that connection about words and how a story was told meant that we could get on as friends. And he said, well, I'm going to the Sundance Film Festival and we do this table read and we take screenwriters who want to come. And I was like, do I want to, Sundance is amazing. Yeah, I would love to come. So we did a table read. I got to know more about the company, and then I was like, I have a few ideas. So that is unfortunately my problem. I go in and I start meddling. So that was 7.5 years ago. I'm now the vice president of development for the company. I would say my big contribution to the International Screenwriters Association is my love of screenwriters and finding writers that no one's heard of. So I love people with a voice. I love people who are second careerers. I love babies just starting out in their writing career. The thing about being a screenwriter, it doesn't matter how old you are or where you come from or what your background has been. In fact, it is better for you if you've done something else or you have other interests, because it makes your storytelling better. So we've developed something called the Development Slate, which is 175 writers with extraordinary talent and all different levels, but they all have something special about them. And I think that's my kind of call to all screenwriters, is that your unique source is actually who you are and what your life has been so far, and the things you think about. That's what's going to make you the best screenwriter. And then it's about practice, persistence, and not letting the business get you down.
I love that. I think more screenwriters need to hear that it starts with you, and then it starts with the hard work, and then just to continue doing the work. And then I think what screenwriters probably have a hard time realizing is that it's all about marketing, right? It's all about stepping out of your comfort zone and finding ways that you can share your story. And of course, finding an agent and all of that might be terrifying to a screenwriter, because you think once you've written your screenplay, you're like, oh, this is it, I'm done, I've done my revision. Where like what happens, that whole like, if I write it, then that's all that needs to be done. So I think my question is, what steps should a screenwriter take once they've completed their final revision, or they think that their screenplay, their revision is done and that it's ready to package it?
I love that. It's reminding me of that Kevin Costner movie. If you build it, they will come. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you're sat there in the baseball field with your screenplay going, anyone? If you go. So,
like, I have it. It's finished.
Yeah. I mean, first off, the first thing you do when you've written your screenplay and you've done your revisions and it seems in a good place is you celebrate. So I don't care how you celebrate. I don't care what that looks like to you, whether it's a cup of tea, a glass of wine, a run around the block, balloons, a trip to the cinema, something that raspberries, something that absolutely makes your life better. Do it to yourself, for yourself, when you complete that screenplay, because boy, I know how hard that is, and it's an achievement to do it. So well done, well done, well done. And if you're writing one right now, I applaud you. And if you've just finished one, amazing. Really do celebrate, because unfortunately now the hard work begins. So, but you have to celebrate every piece of this business, because as Patrice and I were talking about earlier, we had a quick chat before we jumped on, this isn't like working in accounting or some other role where you can be good at your job, be good, someone can recognize that you're doing, you get a bit of a promotion, then you would do a bit more hard work, and then someone, it does not work like that in this business. So you have to be a self-starter, your own cheerleader, and you have to pretend and fake it till you make it, that you are full of confidence and that this project is exactly right for whoever it needs to go to. Because I understand selling yourself is one of the hardest things in the world to do, because we never feel good enough, and it's so we are embarrassed about certain things, or whatever it is that kind of holds you back as a human. So you have to kind of think, you have to remove yourself and become these different people. So your script is one thing, that's a product, and then you as a writer are another product, and then you as a human are a lovely, delicate, beautiful flower, or very strong, truck, but whatever you are as a human is another thing. And so that fuels these, but that is not affected by the trauma and the embarrassment of having to sell yourself and sell the product. Right. That bit, you're over here. So just kind of like, it's about Beyonce with her screen persona, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's that same thing. Right. So you have your persona of the screenwriter and your persona and the writing itself. And then I think you have to, the work starts on really understanding where your script fits in the market. So now this is all homework. I mean, it's good homework. You get to, if you've written a horror movie, then you better watch all the horror movies that are out right now. So you literally would go and you would see all the most modern horror movies. You would do your Google search and find 10 best horror movies on Netflix or whatever it is, and really see what the horror market is doing right now. You get your classics, you know what I mean, the ones that you kind of are your influences from before, and you would build a pitch for your script. And basically you are finding all the comparisons, the other ones that are like it. You are finding all the reasons why someone should like your work. And I mean, there's fun to be had in that bit of it. And then you just have to write it all down and make a big long list as to, well, it has an element of this, it has an element of the originality of Get Out, which with the diversity and the kind of exploration about race, using a genre instead of just a situation, whatever your kind of whatever your reasoning is, you then have to write that all down, make a big list of your comparisons and why, and make an argument for each one of them. And that's your first homework. Then you have to go and dig in and find all the producers that made those scripts. So the ones that you've got, now you've got your comparisons, and you've got your list of why it's like it, and you've got your argument as to why they would like to make lots more money by now reading and hearing out your script. Because basically all producers, all people in this industry are looking to make money. We love art too, but it's about the cash. So how can you make that argument to that person? Now you go to IMDb Pro. We do not work for IMDb Pro, but it is a great tool. And you can find those producers and really dig in and see, like, oh, do they have an actor that they use a lot that actually would be great for the leading role in my script? So I make a note of that. Okay, I could when I email them, I'll mention the fact that they've worked with this actor. Do they like to are they set in Baltimore, Detroit? Do they have up there? I remember meeting a production company and they were set in Detroit and they like Detroit stories, and maybe that's a unique selling point. So you dig all that and then you build an argument, and then you make a kind of it's like a massive kind of almost like a cobweb of connections, and you build an argument so that if you ever get a meeting with any of those people, you can tell them why, you can tell them how, and you can tell them all the reasons why they would want to be connected to you. Whilst doing that, you're also going to need to build your writer's resume. So you've got the people you're going to send your stuff to. Now you have to be impressive as a writer. And the way to do that is to enter contests and to apply for fellowships, and to be if there's kind of like groups online where you can meet other screenwriters, or volunteer for panels, or anything you can do where it looks like you are someone who knows what you're doing. Do it, and then build a profile. And there are several websites. The ISA is one of them, where you can literally build a profile where it lists all your accolades. So then you're going like, well, I'm having this meeting, or I'm speaking on this panel, or I've won this amount of contests, and you start to actually look like a writer that someone should be interested in. So you're kind of building that alongside that, as well as you're kind of doing your research. And I think then it's kind of the contests themselves, as you're looking to kind of build your profile, you need to research those. So you need to go like, there are certain contests that seem to always pick these kinds of scripts. Or is there a really kind of, again, sticking with the horror theme, there are loads of contests that are horror themed and horror centralized around horror and the horror movie making. And so do the research on those. Are there some that prefer slasher movies, or some that are more psychological? Where's yours fit in there? So you don't waste your money. And then you get a planner and you write them all in. You go like, because you want to enter all those contests early bird. So you want to kind of go like, when's the early bird? Because they tend to have the ones where you can, I know some film festival ones, like you can enter for like between $10, So is there an early bird one that you can go to, so you can start and apply for these things? And that
budget, right?
Inclusive fellowships, everything. Just like actually the ISA, not to plug the ISA again, but the ISA does have a list of verified contests, so that you can go to and it means that we know that they give the prize money out that they said they're going to. It does mean, that they actually, that they do what they say they're going to do on the tin, basically.
Right.
Because that's the other thing. You don't want to just, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So do your research again to kind of make sure that you kind of your script fits in, and then the contest itself is worth your money. And applying for fellowships, there's loads of free ones. And if your script is ready, you feel like it's really great, and it's hitting some zeitgeist of what's happening right now, or you do your research on Nickelodeon or CBS CBS Writers Mentoring Program, Disney ABC Writing Program, Sundance, all these kind of fellowships exist. And they are looking for certain writers. And if your script that you've just written fits into one of their criteria, it's time for you to start applying to those too. So it feels like there's so much work to kind of do on that side, which is find out who your producers are, enter contests and build up your writer's resume by doing contests and fellowships. And then whilst doing that, you need to create your pitch materials. So there's kind of like I said, there's a lot of work ahead, and that's why you celebrate writing the script, because your pitch materials, you need to actually, it's best nowadays to there's something called Spark. It's Adobe Spark. That's probably again, we don't work for them, but it's basically, you can create something online which then you can send a link to somebody if you get someone's email or they ask to see your work, rather than a big PDF document. So you can create it all online, and then you need to create a synopsis. Make sure your log line is up to par, because your log line will be the first point of contact for most people, and they're incredibly hard to write. So writing a great log line is so important. And I would test it out on friends. Just go like, if you heard this log line, one, would you be interested? And two, could you tell me what it was about? I mean, because the thing is, like, sometimes we miss like the obvious things, or you have to explain what's going to happen in the second act and allude to what might happen at the end without giving it away, but just so we're kind of all drawn in and excited to kind of like actually see the whole thing. So pitch deck, and then your pitch materials, which are your synopsis, your log line, your 3-minute elevator pitch, which is your like, oh my God, you suddenly met this person and they're like, what are you doing at the moment? Oh, I've just finished this incredible screenplay. Oh, really? What's it about? Well, 3 minutes. Here's this, this, and this. And you have to practice your 12-minute pitch, which is this is the much longer version of it, where I can go into more detail and I can get into the characters. Always start with the characters, I would say, unless it's a very big concept piece. The reason that we hang on to ideas is because we relate to the people in it. And so start with the characters, start with the reason why you had to write this script, the reason why you felt moved by this story, and then you created these people, or they're based on people and it's to really explore and understand this theme with these ideals, and to touch these people, because you understand, because you did that work at the beginning, who your market is, who your audience is. And you are basically taking any kind of thinking away from the people you're pitching to. So they're like, oh yeah, they said to me it will go for it's really for women in the ages 25 to 65. Oh yeah, okay, what's that look like? You know what I mean? And you've already done that thinking for them, and then they're like, oh yeah, it's for the women, like, rather than having to place it somewhere. You've done your research, because you can go, oh, I've watched so many horrors in this area, and it just seemed to me this was a missing piece. People aren't thinking about this. Again, you'll have your own style, but I think it's something to really put in place. And then when you're finished doing that all about your script, you then have to do your little piece on you, writer person, your Beyonce character, Solange. Her name is Solange, where you're like, where you explain why you're a writer, why you get up in the morning to do it, why you have a job and do it the hours round the job, why you have stories stuck in your head and you have to get them out, that piece. You want them to find you compelling as to why you wrote that story as well, and why you're the person to write that story, because of your experiences, because of the life you've had so far, because of your dreams and aspirations for these characters, the world, the situations that happen in it. Because it doesn't really matter in the end where you went to school. What it matters is like whether they like the work that you've done, and also whether they like you. Because actually, if a producer or a manager or any other people in the industry come on board with you, it's like a marriage without any sex. That's like marriage, isn't it? But
exactly.
I was married once. I was just talking about my own. So I think, so they have to make sure they like you. And also, remember, you have to make sure you like them. That's my final.
That's important, right?
Yeah. It's because it's like in this very long monologue. Sorry, Patrice, I just got into
you're fine.
But is that this is a partnership, and it will be an ongoing relationship. So you have to think, but you've got the goods. You've got the thing that actually they want. They make it feel like it's the other way around. But if you have something special and original and really on point and the best thing they've seen in this genre, they want it. So you have to make sure as well that you remember that, value the piece you're worth. Don't be an a-hole, but value yourself and your worth, and know what you've got is precious.
Right. And I like how you hit so many different key points. Like when you're talking about valuing yourself, it's the imposter syndrome. Like all creators have that, right? Especially women creators. We're always doubting ourselves. And I think that's something that we all need to work on. And we just need to make sure that we can pitch ourselves, not only the screenplay, but we also have, like, we're a part of the package, right? It's not just the screenplay. We don't write it and then give it away. We're also part of that package. So I think it is very important as creators, especially women creators, that we just have to, either whether it's through practicing or pitching with your friends, it's something that we just have to be confident with our story, because we wrote it, and we're proud of what we wrote, and we should be able to, pitch ourselves and our screenplay. And another thing that you mentioned was we get screenwriters who, whether it's via email or Reddit conversations, they're always asking, is it worth, submitting to these contests? And I think you hit all those points, because it just kind of, it allows those, the gatekeepers to see how much your screenplay is worth. And unfortunately, that matters, right? They want to see that someone else read your screenplay, that other people reviewed it and they gave it, whether it's a, high ranking or whether it won awards. They just want to make sure that people have seen it and they've reviewed it and they've put it through the ringer of whether or not it was, what am I trying to say? Like whether or not it was a successful screenplay. And I think contests are valuable for screenwriters in that way. So I'm glad you touched that point.
Yeah, we get a lot of managers now. I mean, who come to us and say, "Can you send me? I'd like to have a look at the titles and the log lines of all your contest winners." So the top 10, top 20. We also have several relationships with several managers where literally, if I find a good writer, they have huge clients, but they're like, "If you find a good writer, can you send them to me? Because they're always looking." And I guess to your point, to come back to it as well, especially as this is a conference for women, yes, you deserve to be in the room. Actually, they want you in the room. This is a wonderful time for women creators in all levels of the industry. So know your worth. Understand that there'll be a dude who is quarter qualified who will be speaking as if he owns the place. Yes. And you don't need to do that, but you do need to understand that you have a voice. And actually, it's really, I think it makes all stories more exciting if women's stories are told, and we're not just prostitutes and mothers, because actually, not that there's wrong with either of those things, but but it just makes men's stories will be more interesting when women get to be more interesting. They'll have to stop, they'll have to maybe just take off the hero cape every now and again, And I think, and we can explore how we behave in society in a deeper way when there are more women writing the stories, because we think about things differently. The problems that we have, the things that excite us, thrill us, inspire us are different to men. But it will help all of society if there are more women's voices, including men.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they too will benefit from women voices as well. Yes, absolutely. So I guess I'm curious to know, like, what are some challenges screenwriters might face when they're trying to pitch their screenplay?
It's always getting it in front of somebody. It's the hardest thing. It's kind of making connections, networking, and finding someone to read it. I cannot stress enough how little anyone wants to read anymore. It's like literally like everyone, like, how long is it? 120 pages? No, we were like 120. Honestly, you might as well. Yeah, no. Especially if you're a new writer. If you're a more established writer and you kind of like working with a production company and they're going like, okay, well, this is the first draft, and we're definitely going to get it down. Or it's a Marvel movie. I noticed that was the 10 Rings one is 2 hours, 7 minutes, but they're the oddities.
Blockbuster films, right?
They're the oddities. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, one, watch your page count, because two, you should be able to tell your story in the allotted time, whether it's TV or features. And if you are longer, then you have to go in and say, am I telling too many stories? Is there a thread I could cut? Is there a character that actually maybe could be amalgamated with another? So just go back and do those things, because you should be able to tell that story in that time. I know it's hard because we're also used to TV formats where we can fall in love with someone over 5 years. So therefore it's becoming a different skill set to write a feature nowadays, but you definitely can do it. So making connections, trying to find people to read a script. So definitely you have to do the pitch deck. That's why everyone likes pretty pictures. And you just do a summation. So like, doesn't this look lovely? I'm telling you.
The photos.
Yeah.
Photos help, right?
Yeah, they so do. This is the tone. It's set at this time. These are the people in it. These are how many characters are going. And it's a shortcut. So they're like, okay, before I even have to kind of delve into the thing, they're like, this is a nice, lovely shortcut into seeing whether or not I'm interested or not. And then I think you just have to kind of do some social media creeping. What can I say? Social media stalking. #screenwriter Twitter is kind of like is working really well. Instagram, Twitter, all those social media ones. I'm middle-aged, so I don't know all the young stuff. But all the social media platforms that people are on that are garnering interest, because producers want people to find their films. So they're on Twitter and they're on Instagram. And so are managers and agents and showrunners and directors and actors. I mean, actors if they're really big ones. But if you have an up and coming actor that is just breaking the scene and she's, she would be great for your script if she became attached to it or started championing it or took it to her manager for you. You want to become friends with her real early doors, and she might be on Instagram or on Twitter, and she might not be huge yet, but you saw her in this little film festival that you went to because you're doing your research and finding other screenwriters to work with. And so now she'll be great. So you're collecting people. So you stalk them, you compliment them, you read the trades. If something happens to them, you comment and say, this is so brilliant, congratulations, you are a supporter of these people. So that you might become someone that they notice.
Yeah, because
random.
Sorry to cut you off, but I noticed like on Twitter, I follow the Twitter topic screenwriting and screenwriters. And when you follow those topics on Twitter, you'll always find a conversation with a screenwriter who's always willing, like, especially over last year with COVID, there were so many established screenwriters who were like, I would like to amplify an up and coming screenwriter, or a screenwriter of color, a woman screenwriter. And then it would start the whole conversation of, this is what I'm working on, this is who I am, and this is where you can find my work. So I think Twitter is definitely a great resource for, screenwriters to engage and meet and connect with other established screenwriters, even producers, because I just, even till this day, there's just, a screenwriter is like, hey, this is what I'm working on. I need to get a writer in the room, even if you're interested in writing for television or not. But then they'll say, I'm looking for up and coming writers. Please DM me. And there have been people on Twitter who are saying, oh, I just got my first writing job, TV job through Twitter. And so I think you mentioning like, find those resources, find those connections. A lot of people don't really think about Twitter, but yeah, I think Twitter is a great resource and a tool to use.
It certainly is. And the thing is, like, you don't want to go like, read my screenplay. That's not how you start.
No, it's just communicating, engaging, liking, commenting on their tweets, saying, hey, like you mentioned, I saw that you were in Deadline. Congratulations. It's those things that, they'll remember you, Yeah.
Or at one point or another, if a script suddenly comes across their desk and they're like, that name seems familiar. You know what I mean? Or, it's, or that, their assistant on Twitter, and you're like, oh, I think it's kind of coming, that's the other thing is like, don't forget people who start as assistants run networks. and
Yes.
they become showrunners and they become massive screenwriters. You know, most writing assistants I know are also writers. You know what I mean? So be friends with those too. You know what I mean? And also you're in a gang together of people who have a good idea and want to help each other, and and kind of can be thoughtful about that, you know. So find your gang. And then also Facebook, even in the you know, groups. The groups, there's so many screenwriting groups there. And you might do a table read like this, Zoom table read. You know, you might read each other's scripts, you know, might work on each other's log lines. You might they might say again that they're working with someone that needs this kind of writer. They might be doing the 48-hour film challenge and they need a screenwriter to come on board and be part of the direct. So don't only join the screenwriting ones, join the directing ones and the two. So then the producing ones, so that if they ever need a screenwriter, you're like, woohoo, just here, you know what I mean? Moving forward, so that you have, I mean, it's a job. I think that's the thing, like we were saying, it's like, it's not, I mean, but actually it would actually give going on, I need to do this myself, going on Facebook and Twitter a purpose rather than just floating around in the ether and then feeling bad about yourself for the 2 hours that you somehow mysteriously lost. I don't understand how doing exercise 20 minutes can feel like the whole of my day.
Right.
Social media can like hours.
Like that, right? You go in just to check and then you're like, oh, especially I feel like writers do that a lot, right? When we're procrastinating, we're like, oh, we're gonna take a break, and then like an hour later you're like, I haven't even finished the 10 pages that I promised myself I would write. Someone had a quick question, because you mentioned how, you know, agents, producers, managers aren't really, you know, into reading 120 pages, so they wanted to know what was the sweet spot now, like how many pages should a screenplay be now?
Really anywhere between 90 and 100.
Oof. Yeah. Wow.
You got to get in, get out. You know what I mean? It's literally get in, get that story told, get us involved.
I feel like there's like hundreds of screenwriters now that are going, oh, 90 pages? I can't. First it was 120 and that was hard and difficult. Now you're telling me 90 pages? Oh, yeah. Oof. I'm thinking that even for myself, I'm like, oh, how can I cut my screenplay down to 90 pages? But yeah, no, it makes sense, because we're all living in this like instant gratification world where we want it short and fast and sweet. And so that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Well, also, it means that you have to cut any extraneousness, you know what I mean? Like, what, as I was talking about, there's that focus of the story. So what are you trying to say, and how are you going to say it, and how can you still make it as meaningful in a lesser amount of time? So maybe you don't have as many characters, but what people are going through, you can still explore something in an hour and a half. Is actually quite a long time to spend with people. So what are you going to do, and how are you going to really hone it and cut away.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have another question. So someone was curious, how long should their pitch deck be, or like, is it better to present it in like an online form instead of a PDF? I know you mentioned that, but even when you're pitching it in person, how long or how many pages should your deck be?
I mean, that can really vary. I mean, we have a animated script on our slate right now, and it's 32 pages. It's pitch deck, but then it's animated. So the images are so important as to how that world is. So on each page, it's like another picture, and there are maybe that many lines of dialogue. I'm going to do it again. The ISA we did a talk on this on pitch decks, and we actually had 2 experts on pitch decks, and we did, I think it went for 90 minutes because there was just so much to talk about. But we actually did a YouTube, I think it's on YouTube. It might only be for ISA Connect, so I do apologize. However, you could join for 1 month, which is $10, and then watch that, and then, you know, although I hope you stay.
No, don't say that.
I am just saying, I mean, if money, I understand sometimes money is tight, but I mean, the thing is, the ISA, it does have the trades on there. We have Variety and Movie Maker and the Rap Pro, and there's the trades on there as well, which you'd be lucky to spend $10 a month to get that. So for that alone, it's worth it. Let alone you also apply for writing gigs and look at these things like this. But your pitch deck, I think, it has to have this I hope I don't forget anything. The story, the reason, the log line, the kind of synopsis, your writer's statement, your casting ideas, where it's set and why, and then why now. I kind of think is still the writer's statement, why now. So there's actually there's a real kind of like format to it. But again, I feel like it's less is more. And you want to be using, the whole reason for having the images is it allows you to tell that story without having to use the word. Same as like, I mean, like the whole thing about film is it's such a visual medium, isn't it? So you really, in digging in to find the images that you then put your script over, that's where you're doing half the storytelling. So the lines itself shouldn't be as much, a brief character description about your lead characters, why you were drawn to tell this story and what the story is, and where it's set and the timing of it, and then is kind of as much as you need. So I think, again, I'm probably to say that's probably the least is probably going to be 10 pages, because I'm sure you can write 10 pages with that kind of stuff, images and things, and you want a nice title page, and you want your contact details at the end. You know what I mean? It doesn't want to feel rushed. But you do not want to put your script into a visual form. So now it's just blocks of writing of you telling the story of it, because that isn't doing its job. The whole thing is to turn it into a visual medium. But yes, a link is much better than a PDF, just also as well because people are scared about viruses and downloading stuff like that. And also some of these online things are really quite easy to make. They're kind of more intuitive to put together.
I guess another question would be, how can a screenwriter get noticed by an agent? And I guess also, is it important for a screenwriter to have an agent or a manager?
I think start with the manager. Start with the manager first. I mean, firstly, no, it isn't. It isn't impossible to get noticed without one, because actually, not lots of people, but people have sold work and are being discovered without having managers and agents, especially in this world where social media and Twitter, like you said, is allowing people to find each other in a way that they couldn't before. Also sites where you can go to people's profiles, see their accolades. As long as you keep up to date on those and keep bragging about yourself, and do it on Twitter as well. You're gonna have to go like, yeah, just another, oh no, another award. You know what I mean? Oh, another accolade. Instagram picture of you with the thing, you know what I mean? You have to do that so that people know about it. And honestly, people do care and they are interested. But a manager is more likely to be willing to have a meeting with you when you have built up your writer's resume. So with the accolades, with the fellowship entries, fellowships as well, just to another bit of word of warning, very rarely do you get in first time. It's 2 or 3 times. They want to see that you're really interested, because it's mainly a free program, a free to enter and a free program. So you have to say, I'm coming back. I want to work with you. I'm coming back every year, and you're going to let me in one of these days because I'm right for your program. So don't try once and give up, is what I'm saying. Oh God, what was I saying other than that? I can't remember. It was extremely important. Oh, agent or manager. There we go. So the manager piece, you basically want, if you sell anything, guess what? You're going to get loads of meetings. Till then, you could do your reverse engineering again. So this is like back to Andrew Pro, and you're going like, okay, what show would I be great to write on? And you think about what shows would be great to write on, or what feature would I like to have written? And like you find all those ones, and then you see who they're repped by. And you start to make a list of all the managers that seem to have your taste in writers, because basically that's what you want. You want a writer who likes the writing that you do. And then you got a list of that, and then you got a list of all their writers, and then you start making an argument again for yourself. I see you have a hole in your roster where you don't have a woman of a certain age or that has been through this background, or I see right now that it seems you do that a lot of your writers work in procedurals, and I have this incredible procedural script, or or you don't seem to have any female horror writers. Now I'm a female horror writer, and I've won these awards. So you basically start to build your argument for the manager, so that if you started then to do a bit of outreach, gentle outreach, again, you're following them on Twitter, you're following them on Instagram, you are looking out for their names in the trades, you are doing all the other stuff so that you are aware of who they are. If they have, do a bit of digging, if they like a certain football team, if they win on Twitter, go like, hey, I saw your football team won, or something. Do you know what I mean? Something it shows that you're taking an interest in them. Or if one of their other writers does well, or a show gets an accolade, again, it's that
right.
buttering, but it's kind of just, and then at one time, if whatever, I could just say like, if you feel like you're at that point, you could maybe on Twitter or Instagram say like, if you ever had 5 minutes, I would love to chat to you about my writing aspirations, something very gentle like that. And then the other thing to do is to do your targeted outreach via email, but it's not dear sir or dear madam, it's literally dear so-and-so, because you've done the work, you've looked them up, you know what they are, who they are. I've been following your work for a while. I see you have some amazing writers on your roster, list them. I love this kind of work. My passion is this. If you ever had 5 minutes, I would love to talk to you about my work. It's awful. I keep winning awards, but I have no one to share them with. I do just something funny as well. Be silly, be you in it, so that you show a bit of your personality. I write to stop me baking and eating cupcakes. So if something that is like, they'll remember that email because they've had 50 other very boring
email correspondence. Yes. Yeah, no, I love that, because I feel like screenwriters are always told you need an agent. If you're going to break in, you need an agent. That's the only way in. And I love that you're giving other ways that screenwriters can enter into break into the industry without finding an agent, because I feel screenwriters are always worried about that, right? That element of breaking into the industry, and they're constantly told, well, you can't do it without an agent. There's no point in writing if you don't have an agent. So that's great that those are the points that you're making.
No, absolutely. And also a manager will actually develop and help you with your career. They look at the overview. The manager is the overview of your career. And you want someone that you can talk to and say, this is where I'd like to be. I'd like to be in a writer's room. I'd like to have features at Sundance, whatever your dream is. You want a manager who understands that dream and then will help you achieve that. An agent does your deal if you sell a piece. That's what they do. They do that deal. That's why they tend to be much harsher. I mean, a massive generalization, but they're tough, they have to be tough. The other thing about manager is depending on the percentage that you have to remember, is if they take 10% and you get 90, that means they're going to get 10% of your earnings, and you get 90%. So they only expect to do 10% of the work, and you have to do 90%. You do the work. Even when you have a manager, it's you going out making connections. It's you making friends on Twitter. It's you finding actors that you like and seeing if you're in some way connected to them. It's you doing all that other work. Yes, they will help you. I mean, they give you credibility. They will definitely be able to some general meetings, hopefully, with people that you couldn't have done beforehand. They might even be able to get your script to producers that that are looking for work like yours, but you still have all your own other work to do. And the other thing is, if you start having conversations with managers and you can say, well, I've done all this research and I've done some thinking, and this is the market that I think my script fits into, and these are the other films it's like, and honestly, you've just taken so much work off their plate that they don't have to think about. You suddenly become a much more interesting prospect for them.
Someone wanted to know, like, how can you find a suitable and a reliable manager? I know you mentioned IMBD Pro, but are there other ways that screenwriters can find their managers?
I mean, I guess referrals. I think maybe, and then I think Twitter, like we talked about before. But you know, that is the go-to list. I mean, I would say the reason why it's a go-to list is because the shows that because you're reverse engineering it. The reason why they're reliable is because you like the show first, and then they've got writers on that show, so you know that they're working for their writers. There are some people that call themselves managers that don't do anything.
Right.
But you're much more, it's much better for you. Or I mean, like, and also as well, there are people that are just starting out that mainly kind of like might be assistants. So again, I think it would be, it's worth kind of finding people who are working in managers' offices and being assistants. They're doing that to work themselves up into being a manager. So on your Facebook screenwriting groups, is anyone working with a great manager right now, or is anyone an assistant at a manager's office? I'd love to talk to, I mean, just I think ask for help. And then I think the other thing is to again, value your worth when you meet these people, and kind of talking about yourself and what you're asking for, and know what you want to happen with your career, so that they then have a chance to make that happen for you. And then if it isn't working out, know you're allowed to leave them.
Yeah, no, you're right. Your manager should definitely be working for you, and should help you guide you through your whole career journey. So that's definitely great advice. Something else that's also a misconception is that if you're not in LA, whether you're an actor, director, an actress, if you're not in LA, then it's difficult for you to even get your foot into the door. Is that another misconception, that screenwriters, if they're out in Texas or Chicago, that there is a path for them to break into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that definitely used to be the story. I think COVID changed that. So a lot more of these meetings happen. And I'm glad about that. I mean, my feeling is this. I mean, LA is a wonderful place, but it's just one place, it's just one place. And if you're in Chicago or something like that, they have an amazing film community. And actually Texas has a really great film commissioning board, and they're very interested in helping filmmakers. So one thing first thing is to say is, like, go local, because you know what, if you are really, you want to be a big fish in a small pond. And if, whereas you come to LA, you're a tiny fish in a much bigger pond here. Whereas if you can start, to make your name locally and start to kind of build your contacts within your little area, you can still start creating buzz, creating attention, starting to people to understand and know your name. And that Chicago producer or that film festival you're at in the small local area, or a short that you produced or that you've written and get some buzz in your local area, if it's good enough, it will start to travel, because people are still really looking for the best voices and for something unique. I know that all stories have been told. So what is your unique perspective on it, and how can you stand out from the crowd and show yourself to be someone to be reckoned with, and someone that they should take notice of? So I would say start small, and then also know that LA is still here. The first kind of meeting, if someone, I don't know, hypothetically, we have writing gigs on the ISA network, isa.org, where you basically we have producers looking for scripts. You send a script in, you can send that from anywhere, it's just online. They like it, they want to option it. The first thing they're going to do is have a meeting with you like this. They're going to have a meeting with Zoom to see whether they like you, whether you like them, whether you're on the same path for the ideas for the script, before they would even think about offering any money or what that might look like. It might be a free option, it might be some money, there's all kind of different versions of that. If it ever became serious, And there was again maybe a funding meeting with financiers, or a casting meeting with a big casting director and they needed you would just fly out. You know, that's the great thing, is you can come here. And actually, to be honest with you, at the moment, it's so expensive to live here. I don't know, you know, so there is another piece to consider. I think I honestly, you know, I think it used to be so, if you want to work in TV in a writer's room, it used to be you had to be here. Even now that at the moment, they're writing remotely. I know that people are writing remotely. If people go back into offices next year, then maybe that will change again. But I mainly think just do what you do close to home first. Start building your name, start building your friends, start building your network of actors that you work with, directors that you work with, producers that you're going to get on board with, and just start going to film festivals, supporting other people locally. Do that kind of stuff first. And then, you know, if you've got something amazing, it finds a way. Cream does have a way of rising to the top.
So I guess the last thing I'll ask is, do you have any last advice for a screenwriter looking to break into the industry, or even any advice to how to market your screenplay? Any final key advice you'd like to share?
I did, because Patrice, they did send me this question beforehand, so I have my bullet points that I was kind of like thinking about, and I've kind of like covered it in some of the other pieces, but I feel like it just is a summation.
Yes.
Celebrate the wins. Celebrate that you are doing this, putting your voice out there, that you are talented, that you are worthy, that your story is important. It's so important that your story is important and relevant, and honestly that there is someone that needs to hear it. Remember that. Learn to talk about yourself in the third person, so your writer persona and your script persona, you know, and get comfortable with that. Get comfortable with owning yourself and your story and your work. Read the trades, especially around the area that you want to be involved in. And you know, do your research about finding the scripts that are like yours, the writers that are like you. It will only help you to be able to speak intelligently about those things. Reverse engineer the career that you want. So start with the managers and the shows that you would like to be part of, and see who is responsible for those. Who was the manager? Who was the writer? Who was the producer? To start making those lists, and then see if you're connected in any way. If there's an assistant on there, do you know that person? Is it, especially with these local ones, if there's an assistant, you might know that person that assisted them, or you might get to meet them if you went to a film festival. So start making a list of those names, look out for them, be friendly, you know, try and be friends with everyone, because honey is definitely sweeter than vinegar, and and people will remember you, because you were nice and you were kind. And if you read other people's scripts, give them notes. Remember, they're a writer too, and don't break their heart. You know, just give the notes in a way that you would want to hear, even if you don't like it. But doing that is such a great support for other people, and it does come back. I think what you put out definitely comes back. Practice pitches. Your pitch, the elevator one, the longer one, your pitch about yourself. They're all things you can practice. So do it with other people. Set yourself some goals. I think that's just to keep yourself on track. You know, you got your planner that you write in the contest entries in, and your fellowship entries, and when they need to happen. So then also set yourself a couple of goals. I'm going to have embarrassedly reached out to 5 managers on Twitter. You know, I mean, like, but by the end of next week, I'm going to have got my pitch deck together by the end of the month. I'm going, you know, that kind of stuff. So just, if you don't put it, I don't know, I'm talking about myself again. Just don't stop you, Felicity. But I mean, unless I write it down and can tick it off, it doesn't happen. It's like it doesn't exist in my world. It's also because I drink too much wine. So things come, they go, you know, things don't hang around very long in here. So I have to write it down so that I remember, and hold myself accountable. And then say thank you to people that help you. So even if it would seem so irrelevant, the fact that you remember and you go, like, thank you for that bit of advice, or I just got some really great, I just won something with that script, and that note you gave me really helped me, thank you. You know, all those thank yous will definitely mean, even on Twitter, if someone gives you a bit of, if you ask a question and they give you a bit of advice, say thank you and say, I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. You know, rather than going like, great, I've got that, bye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like,
disappearing.
Yeah. It's like holding the door open for someone and they just walk through and you're like, okay, that was great, thank you. So it's just like, that is a kindness that costs you nothing but will be remembered. And also, let's just say thank you to each other more. It doesn't make the world a nicer place. I like thank you. Thank you feels great. And then it's just keep learning and keep going, because there's always something else that you don't know, but don't be afraid to ask. And if you stop, then it definitely isn't going to happen. So you just have to keep going, you know, and learn from your mistakes, and pat yourself on the back when you do something scary, celebrate the wins, but just keep going. Honestly, there's, you know, success is a weird thing. It's kind of like, I don't know, being told it's measured by Twitter followers or money in the bank, or I don't know, accolades. Ultimately, there are lots of people that have all those things and are pretty miserable. Success is how you feel about yourself, and how you wake up in the morning, and what you're doing with your life, and how you're treating the people in your life. And that, you're already a success if you're doing that, and actually you're pretty happy. And then writing a story that could change someone's thinking about someone, even if one person read that story and they felt differently about something, that's a success. Getting up and, I don't know, sometimes cleaning your teeth on a day when you feel sad is a success. Yes. So I think, you know, I know we're told that all this success is outside of us and to be found and to be driven, but actually your success is, I wrote the story, I listened to my heart and I wrote the story, and it comes from inside out. And you are valuable, and you are worth it, and your story is important. And whether that gets on the big screen or not, it doesn't matter. That is true regardless.
Oh, Felicity, thank you so much. Just hearing all of that from a screenwriter point of view, and I'm sure from all our creators, even I think directors and actors can also take that advice, you know, that you're giving. I think it's just, you know, yes, be thankful, be true to yourself. And if you have a story, you have to share it. And that is success, right? Just completing your first screenplay is a success. And you need to celebrate those small successes, because they will eventually lead to a big success, I think. So thank you so much for joining us, sharing your insights and your knowledge to aspiring film screenwriters. And I think a lot of our screenwriters will definitely benefit from this conversation.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me, Patrice. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Thank you for being friends with the ISA. You know, we really do want to support screenwriters. We understand that without them, the whole industry is built on their backs, and they're treated quite badly. And so it's always been our absolute mission to champion them and to support them, and to say, we love you, we appreciate what you do, we see the hard work. I mean, I feel like all I've told everyone to do is like, it's a list of other things to do, you know what I mean? But so we see you. We see you, yes. and
we celebrate you. Yeah. Because we have this, our screenwriting competition that we've been doing for 3 years now, and this will be the 3rd time that we have a table read. And the screenwriters are just always so grateful, because they're like, should I do the table read? And I'm like, it's a great way for you to hear your story, right? To hear it in voices that you've never heard it from like before. And it's just a great way to learn and hear those, you know, maybe I shouldn't have wrote it this way. No, that's not how I thought it would have been, how it would have gone. And hearing it from an actor, you know, helps me to like, oh, I'm going to rewrite this scene, you know, and I'm going to work out on my screenplay. So I love doing these screenplay competitions. I love that screenwriters submit to our festival and we get to read their screenplays, because they're just amazing. And I think more and more people need to read those screenplays. And ISA is definitely one of those platforms that, we love working with, because our screenwriters are our finalists and our winners do get the opportunity to, join ISA, and they get to see all the resources that ISA has to offer. So thank you so much.
No, I appreciate that. And imagine this, what a great title for a film festival.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you so much.